Welcome to Story Tales. Please like this video and subscribe to Story Tales. I hope you enjoy the story. Let's begin. The numbers glowed green on Kellen Stroud's monitor. $2 million. Contract status. Signed. He leaned back in his ergonomic chair, allowing himself 5 seconds no more to savor the victory. 8 months of work. Countless red-eye flights. Hundreds of emails, calls, and meetings. The West Corp deal was finally closed, and the $120,000 commission would be the largest single payout of his career. Kellen checked his watch, an understated Omega he'd bought after his first six-figure year, and shut down his computer. The office buzzed with the usual Monday energy, but he felt disconnected from it, already mentally calculating his next 3 moves. That was his gift, seeing the long game while everyone else played checkers. His phone vibrated. A message from Marston Greeley, VP of Sales. My office. 10 minutes. Kellen's jaw tightened imperceptibly. He'd expected congratulations, not a summons. Still, he straightened his charcoal tie and buttoned his navy suit jacket. Whatever game Greeley was playing, Kellen would be ready. Precisely 9 minutes later, he knocked on the glass door of Greeley's corner office. Come in, Stroud. Greeley didn't look up from his laptop. He was 52, with artificially white teeth and the forced hand of someone who booked regular spray appointments. Close the door. Kellen did so and took a seat without being asked. West Corp signed, Kellen said. Full package plus the enterprise security add-ons. Greeley nodded without enthusiasm. Yes, I saw the notification. He finally looked up, his expression practiced neutral. That's not why I called you in. Something cold settled in Kellen's stomach. I'll be direct. We're restructuring the sales territories effective immediately. Your position is being eliminated. The words hung in the air. Kellen didn't blink. The West Corp commission, he asked, voice steady. Greeley shuffled papers unnecessarily. Since the deal will close after your termination date, it will be reassigned to the new territory manager. I see. Kellen's mind raced through statutes, contract clauses, and company policy. It was technically possible, but blatantly unethical. And when is my termination date? Today. HR has your package. Greeley finally met his eyes. This isn't personal, Kellen. But Kellen saw the slight twitch at the corner of Greeley's mouth. The micro-expression of satisfaction. This was absolutely personal. Of course, Kellen replied, rising smoothly. Thank you for the opportunity. He extended his hand, forcing Greeley to shake it. Greeley's palm was clammy. Weak. Kellen filed that away. The walk to his desk was mechanical. He packed his few personal items, efficiently the small potted succulent, a single frame photo of his college graduation, a spare tie. Security wasn't escorting him out, that would be too obvious, but the message was clear in the eyes of colleagues who suddenly found their monitors fascinating. HR severance package was standard. 6 weeks of pay. Outplacement services. A form letter thanking him for his service to Argonexus. Kellen signed the papers without reading them. He'd memorized the company's termination policies years ago. He placed his key card on the HR director's desk. I'll email my client handover notes within the hour, Kellen said. The HR director, a nervous woman named Janet, seemed surprised. That would be helpful. Thank you. Kellen nodded. Argonexus values efficiency above all. He allowed himself the smallest hint of irony, but Janet missed it completely. An hour later, Kellen sat in his downtown apartment, 27 floors above the Chicago streets. The space was minimalist, intentionally so. No clutter, no distractions, just clean lines, functional furniture, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan. He poured himself 2 fingers of rye whiskey and finally allowed his mask to drop. Anger burned in his chest, but he wouldn't let it consume him. Anger was a tool, like any emotion, to be channeled and focused. 8 years at Argonexus. 8 years of loyalty, sacrificed weekends, ignored relationships. He'd started as an account manager fresh out of college and climbed to senior enterprise executive through sheer will and relentless competence. And now a nothing. Cut loose the moment Greeley could justify it. The commission stolen from his grasp. Kellen took a measured sip of whiskey and picked up his phone. He scrolled past dozens of contacts before stopping on one name. Lainey crossed. Did he press call? She answered on the fourth ring. Kellen Stroud. Either someone died, or you're finally taking me up on that dinner offer. Neither, he replied. You were right about Greeley. A pause. He didn't. He did. Closed Westcorp today. Terminated an hour later. Commission reassigned. Lainey swore creatively. A recruiter with her finger on the pulse of Chicago's tech scene. She'd warned him about Greeley's reputation 6 months ago. Kellen had dismissed it, then a mistake he wouldn't repeat. I need a few introductions, Kellen said. Not for a job. For leverage. You're planning something. It wasn't a question. Yes. Legal. Technically. Lainey laughed, a sharp sound like breaking glass. Come to my office tomorrow. 9 a.m. And Kellen. Yes. We're something expensive. We're going hunting. Kellen hung up and walked to the window. The city lights spread before him like a circuit board. Each connection mattered. Each node had purpose. He thought about his past, the foster homes in Indiana, the scholarship to Northwestern that had been his first real victory. The relentless climb from budget motels to five-star hotels as he proved himself in the cutthroat world of enterprise sales. No one had ever given him anything. Everything he had, he'd earned through calculation and persistence. Argonexus had been more than an employer. It had been validation. Proof that he belonged in rooms where million-dollar decisions were made. And now Greeley thought he could simply erase him. Kellen finished his whiskey and set the glass down with mathematical precision. Not this time, he said to the empty room. The offices of Cross Talent Solutions occupied half a floor in a renovated industrial building in River North. Exposed brick, steel beams, and glass partitions gave it the obligatory tech-adjacent aesthetic. Lainey Cross greeted him with a firm handshake and appraising eyes. At 38, she had the sharp features and sharper instincts of someone who built her business by knowing secrets before they became public knowledge. You look good for someone who just got screwed out of 6 figures, she noted, leading him to her office. Appearing wounded doesn't serve my purposes, Kellen replied. Lainey closed her office door. So what serve your purposes, Kellen? Besides making me cancel my morning meetings, I need access to 3 people. He took out his phone and pulled up his notes. Zora Whitfield at Nimera Systems. Bryce Latimer, he was a developer at Argonexus until recently. And Tegan Holt at the Tech Ethics Coalition. Lainey raised an eyebrow. That's quite the triangle. Competitor, insider, and watchdog. She leaned forward. What exactly are you planning? It's better if you don't know details. Bullshit. You're asking me to put my reputation on the line. I need something. Kellen considered his options. Argonexus violated their own compensation policies and possibly state labor laws. I intend to correct that situation. And these 3 help you how? Zora can hurt them where it counts market share. Bryce has technical access I need. And Tegan has regulatory influence. You look exactly the same, she said as he approached. It's only been 11 months, he replied, taking the stool beside her. Feels longer. She took a measured sip of her drink. Lainey said you needed something from me. Kellen ordered a rye neat. I need to know if Argonexus has any active compliance investigations. That's confidential information. Yes. Tegan studied him, her sharp green eyes missing nothing. They fired you. Yes. And now you want dirt. I want leverage. The bartender set down Kellen's drink and retreated. Why should I help you? Tegan asked. Because Greeley is still there. A flash of something anger, disgust crossed Tegan's face. During their relationship, she confided that Greeley had blocked her promotion at a previous company, claiming she was too emotional for leadership. The real reason, she'd rejected his advances at a company retreat. What exactly do you want to know? She finally asked. If there are any vulnerabilities in their compliance record, anything that could trigger an investigation. Tegan swirled the ice in her glass. There's been chatter about their data privacy claims. They advertise end-to-end encryption and zero third-party data sharing. Reality may differ. How significantly? Their sales materials claim customer data never leaves their secure environment. But 3 separate companies have reported seeing their data appearing in predictive models they didn't authorize. That would violate FTC regulations, GDPR if European customers are affected, plus their own terms of service. Tegan set down her glass. It's not enough for a case yet. Just whispers. I might have documents that could change that. Tegan's expression hardened. Don't play games with me, Kellen. If you have evidence of privacy violations, that's serious. People's data is at risk, which is why it should be investigated properly. By using me as your personal regulatory weapon, by ensuring the right people see the right information. They sat in tense silence, the weight of their past relationship hovering between them. Why did you really call me? Tegan finally asked. You could have gotten this information elsewhere. Kellen considered deflecting, but opted for a calculated truth. Because you're principled. You won't use the information for personal gain, only for its proper purpose. And it has nothing to do with Greeley. It has everything to do with Greeley. But that doesn't make the violations any less real. Tegan finished her drink. Send me what you have. I'll review it professionally. If it merits investigation, I'll move it forward. Not for you. For the people whose privacy is being compromised. I understand. She stood to leave, then paused. This won't fix anything, you know. Not really. I'm not looking for fixing, Kellen replied. I'm looking for correction. Tegan shook her head slightly. You haven't changed at all. It wasn't a compliment. As she left, Kellen remained at the bar, methodically planning his next move. Within a week, he'd connected all three allies, sharing only what each needed to know, keeping the full strategy to himself. Zora began using Argonexus's roadmap to undercut their offerings. When Argonexus pitched expanded AI capabilities to pro-health systems, Nimura was there the next day with a more targeted, competitively priced solution. Bryce delivered the sales dash logs, confirming what Kellen already knew. The Westcorp deal had been reassigned to Thomas Reeves, Greeley's former college roommate, who joined Argonexus 3 weeks prior, 26 hours before Kellen's termination. Tegan's Ethics Commission opened a preliminary inquiry into Argonexus's data privacy practices. After receiving anonymized internal documents showing customer data being used in ways not covered by service agreements. And Laney connected Kellen with Jordan Miles, a technology journalist known for hard-hitting exposés on corporate malfeasance. I have sources claiming Argonexus systematically reassigns deals before terminating employees to avoid commission payouts, Miles said during their confidential meeting at a downtown hotel lobby. Any comment? I wouldn't know about systematic practices, Kellen replied carefully. But I can provide documentation of one such incident with clear timestamps. And why come forward now? Because it's not just about money. It's about a culture that devalues the people generating its success. Miles nodded, scribbling notes. I'll need corroboration. Other employees with similar experiences. Check with sales representatives terminated in the last 18 months. Particularly those who closed deals within 30 days of departure. And you're willing to go on record? With evidence, yes. 3 days later, Miles's article appeared on Tech Inquirer's front page. The commission cut. How Argonexus cheats its closers. It detailed 5 cases of sales representatives losing commissions through suspiciously timed reassignments. With Kellen's case featured prominently. By mid-afternoon, the article had been picked up by major technology news outlets. Argonexus's stock dropped 7% in 2 hours. Kellen watched the chaos unfold from his apartment, calmly sipping coffee as CNBC discussed the troubling allegations against the enterprise AI provider. His phone rang. Did you see it? Bryce asked, excitement evident in his voice. They're getting destroyed online. The developer forums are blowing up. I saw, Kellen replied. There's more, Bryce continued. I've been monitoring internal communications. Greeley is panicking. He's called 3 emergency meetings with legal. Any mention of damage control? They're preparing a statement denying systematic issues, blaming isolated incidents of miscommunication. That won't satisfy the board, Kellen noted. Not with the stock falling. What's next? Bryce asked. Wait for the call. What call? The one that should come within the next 24 hours. Kellen was wrong. The call came 17 hours later, from a number he didn't recognize. Mr. Stroud? This is Clara DeWitt, COO of Argonexus. Clara DeWitt, 55, Harvard MBA, former McKinsey consultant, known for ruthless efficiency and unwavering focus on results. She joined Argonexus 2 years ago, but operated largely in the background, focusing on operations while Greeley handled sales with far more visibility. Ms. DeWitt, what can I do for you? I think we should meet to discuss recent publications. I'm not sure what I could contribute to such a discussion. I think you know exactly what you could contribute, Mr. Stroud. Shall we say tomorrow? 8 a.m. at the Four Seasons restaurant. That would be acceptable. Good. And Mr. Stroud? Come alone. The Four Seasons restaurant offered privacy for those wealthy enough to afford it. Clara DeWitt had secured a corner table with a view of the Chicago River. She wore a perfectly tailored gray suit, her silver hair cut in a precise bob. Mr. Stroud, she said, standing briefly as he approached. Thank you for coming. Kellen took the seat across from her. I was curious about your invitation. I'm sure you were. She sipped her espresso. Let me be direct. I know what you're doing. And what is that? Systematically undermining Argonexus through strategic information leaks to competitors, regulators, and the press. She set down her cup. Quite skillfully, I might add. Kellen didn't confirm or deny. That's a serious accusation. It's not an accusation. It's an observation. Clara leaned forward slightly. I've been watching you for some time, Mr. Stroud. Your work at Argonexus was exemplary. Your termination was ill-advised, yet you allowed it to happen. I was overruled. Marston has certain connections with the board. Had, Kellen corrected. Past tense, I imagine, after recent events. Clara's lips curved in a slight smile. Indeed. Which brings me to the purpose of this meeting. She slid a folder across the table. Your commission for the Westcorp deal, plus 20%, as a gesture of good faith. Kellen didn't touch the folder. Why now? Because Marston Greeley made a costly mistake, and the company is correcting it. And if I accept, we would expect the current difficulties to subside. Kellen considered the folder, calculated the probable amount inside, roughly $144,000. A significant sum, the exact value of what had been taken from him, and yet. I'm afraid I must decline, he said that Clara's eyebrows rose fractionally, the only indication of surprise. May I ask why? Because the issue was never truly about the money. It was about integrity. You've made your point abundantly clear, Mr. Stroud. The board is taking action. Marston's position is being reevaluated. You mean he's being forced out? Let's say his future with the company is limited. Clara studied him closely. What would it take, Mr. Stroud, to end this campaign? Kellen met her gaze directly. Evidence. Of what? That Greeley deliberately reassigned my commission to avoid payment, with full knowledge that the termination was imminent. Clara was silent for a moment. That would be difficult to obtain, not if he admitted it himself. And why would he do that? Because someone he trusts could ask him directly, while recording the conversation for, let's call it, quality assurance purposes. Understanding dawned in Clara's eyes. You wanted to set him up. I want you to verify the truth, Ms. DeWitt. For the company's sake. Clara picked up her espresso and finished it in one smooth motion. You're playing a dangerous game, Mr. Stroud. No more dangerous than allowing unethical practices to continue unchecked. And if I were to obtain such verification, then the leaks would stop. The regulatory concerns would remain. Those are legitimate issues requiring legitimate resolution. Clara considered him with new respect. You always did better work than Greeley. She stood, leaving the folder on the table. Consider this a down payment on good faith. I'll be in touch. As she walked away, Kellen finally opened the folder. Inside was a cashier's check for exactly $144,000, along with a confidentiality agreement. He took the check and left the agreement and signed on the table. 3 days passed. The media frenzy around Argonexus continued, with industry analysts questioning the company's ethical practices and sales methods. Rumors circulated that major clients were reviewing their contracts. Kellen maintained his careful distance, neither confirming nor denying involvement when journalists called. Zora reported that Nimra had successfully poached 2 mid-sized clients from Argonexus, with more considering a switch on the 4th day. Kellen received an email from an anonymous account, a voice recording file with no accompanying message. He played it immediately. The numbers aren't looking good this quarter, Marston. Clara's voice was unmistakable. "It's that damn article," Greeley replied, sounding agitated. "Complete fabrication. We've never had a policy of reassigning deals before termination." "Then how do you explain the Stroud situation?" "The timestamps clearly show his West Corp deal was reassigned to Reeves before Stroud was terminated." A pause. "That was different." "Strategic reassignment." "Strategic how?" "Look, Reeves needed a win to justify his salary. Stroud was on the way out anyway. It made sense to transition the account." "So you knew Stroud was being terminated when you reassigned his deal?" "Of course I knew. I initiated the termination. The deal reassignment was just efficient timing, even though it meant he lost a $120,000 commission he'd earned. That's business, Clara. We saved the company money. The board should be thanking me, not questioning my methods. And the fact that Reeves is your friend had nothing to do with it." "He's qualified," Greeley replied defensively, "and loyal, unlike Stroud, who was getting too big for his position anyway." The recording ended. Kellen played it 3 times, verifying its authenticity and content. It was exactly what he needed: clear admission of unethical practices, directly from Greeley himself. He forwarded the recording to Jordan Miles at Tech Inquirer with a single line: "For your consideration." By evening, the recording was public. By morning, Argonexus announced Marston Greeley had resigned to pursue other opportunities. The company's press release included a carefully worded reference to recommitting to ethical sales practices and employee recognition, and announced an internal review of all commission structures. Kellen's phone rang again. Clara DeWitt. "Satisfied, Mr. Stroud?" she asked without preamble. "Justice has been served," he replied. "The board has asked me to step in as CEO," she continued, "on an interim basis while we rebuild our reputation." "Congratulations. I'd like to discuss your return to Argonexus. In a more appropriate role, of course. VP of Enterprise Sales, perhaps." Kellen allowed himself a small smile. "I appreciate the offer, Ms. DeWitt, but I must decline. May I ask why?" "You've achieved your objective. Greeley is gone. The commission policy is being reformed. What more do you want?" "Nothing from Argonexus." Clara was silent for a moment. "You've accepted another position." "I have." "With whom?" "I believe you'll find out soon enough." After disconnecting, Kellen checked his watch. It was time for his final meeting with Zora Whitfield and the executive team at Nimmer Systems. The Nimmer Systems headquarters occupied a renovated warehouse in the West Loop, its industrial exterior concealing state-of-the-art facilities inside. Unlike Argonexus's sterile corporate environment, Nimmer embraced a blend of function and aesthetic: exposed brick walls contrasting with glass-enclosed meeting rooms named after mathematicians and scientists. Zora met Kellen in the lobby, her handshake firm and confident. "They're waiting in the touring room," she said, leading him through the open workspace. "Your timing couldn't be better. Argonexus is trending on Twitter, and not in a good way." The Nimmer executive team consisted of 5 people: CEO Daniel Voss, CTO Amara Patel, CFO Robert Kincaid, Chief Strategy Officer Elena Mori, and Zora as head of strategic partnerships. They all stood as Kellen entered. "Mr. Stroud," Voss said, extending his hand. "Your reputation precedes you." "Thank you for the opportunity to meet," Kellen replied. "We should be thanking you," Mori interjected. "Your insights into Argonexus's roadmap have been invaluable." Kellen took the offered seat at the table. "That was just a sample of what I can provide." "Indeed," Voss said. "Zora tells us you have a proposal." "I do." Kellen opened his laptop and connected it to the room's display system. Argonexus is currently vulnerable in 3 key areas: market perception, client retention, and innovation pipeline. For the next 30 minutes, Kellen methodically outlined a strategy to capitalize on these vulnerabilities. He detailed which clients were most likely to switch providers, which product features could be fast-tracked to undercut Argonexus's offerings, and which messaging would most effectively highlight the competitor's ethical failures without explicitly mentioning them. When he finished, the room was silent for several seconds. "That's impressively thorough," CTO Patel finally said. "Most of our competitive analysis takes weeks to compile that level of detail." "Mr. Stroud clearly knows his former employer well," CFO Kincaid noted, his tone carefully neutral. The question, CEO Voss said, leaning forward, is whether this is a one-time intelligence dump or something more sustainable. That depends on your interests, Kellen replied. Let's be direct, Voss said. Are you proposing to join Nimra? And if so, in what capacity? I am, and not in sales. Eyebrows rose around the table. You're one of the top enterprise sales executives in the industry, Zora said. Why would you not want to leverage that expertise? Because sales is tactical. I'm interested in strategy. Kellen closed his laptop. I'm proposing a new position, SVP of Corporate Strategy, focused specifically on market positioning against key competitors. That would typically report to me, Maury, the current Chief Strategy Officer, pointed out. Initially, yes, Kellen agreed. With a clear path to Chief Competitive Officer within 12 months, assuming performance metrics are met. Voss exchanged glances with his executive team. That's ambitious. So is taking 30% of Argonexus's market share within 18 months, which is what I'm prepared to deliver. Based on what evidence? Kincaid asked. In response, Kellen retrieved a folder from his briefcase and slid it across the table. A list of 6 enterprise clients currently under contract with Argonexus, but with exit clauses exercisable within the next 90 days. Combined annual contract value, $17.4 million. Voss opened the folder, his eyes widening slightly. These are all Fortune 500 companies. Yes, and I have preliminary conversations scheduled with 4 of them next week. They're eager to explore alternatives, given recent publicity, including Westcorp. Zora asked. Especially Westcorp, Kellen confirmed. Their CTO never fully trusted Argonexus's security claims. Recent revelations have only confirmed those suspicions. The executives conferred quietly among themselves. Finally, Voss spoke. We would need to create this position. Establish clear KPIs, reporting structures, compensation packages, all of which can be finalized this week, Kellen said confidently. I've taken the liberty of drafting the key elements. He removed another document from his briefcase, a comprehensive job description and performance framework. Voss couldn't hide his impressed expression. You've thought of everything. That's what you'd be paying me for. After further discussion of terms, including a signing bonus equivalent to the Westcorp commission, Kellen had lost the executives left to confer privately, leaving Kellen alone with Zora. That was impressive, she said. Even for you. Thank you for the opportunity. Don't thank me yet. Robert's probably in there listing all the reasons hiring you is a security risk, and Daniel's listing all the reasons not hiring me would be a competitive disadvantage. Zora smiled. Exactly, which is why you'll get the offer. They're just negotiating terms now. Kellen nodded, maintaining his composed exterior while calculating next steps. The position would give him both autonomy and influence the ability to shape Nimra's approach to the market while systematically dismantling Argonexus's dominance. 20 minutes later, the executives returned. Mr. Stroud, Voss said, we'd like to make you an offer. The next 3 weeks unfolded exactly as Kellen had planned. He joined Nimra as SVP of Corporate Strategy with a clear mandate: accelerate growth by targeting Argonexus's client base. His signing bonus, $150,000, exceeded the commission Argonexus had stolen from him. His equity package ensured long-term alignment with Nimra's success. Westcorp was the first domino to fall. The CISO who had initially hesitated during Kellen's time at Argonexus now embraced Nimra's security-first approach, signing a 3-year contract worth $2.8 million annually. 4 more enterprise clients followed within the first month. Each transition carefully managed to minimize disruption while maximizing negative publicity for Argonexus. Bryce Latimer joined Nimra as Director of Competitive Intelligence, heading a small but elite team reporting directly to Kellen. His technical knowledge of Argonexus's systems proved invaluable in creating migration pathways for transitioning clients. Tegan's ethics investigation continued independently, resulting in a formal FTC inquiry into Argonexus's data privacy practices. While Kellen had no direct involvement in the regulatory process, the timing benefited Nimra's narrative of being the more trustworthy alternative. Industry publications began noting the Argonexus exodus, with one analyst report specifically attributing the client migration to a fundamental breach of trust between the vendor and its customer base, exacerbated by questionable internal practices recently brought to light. On a crisp autumn morning 6 weeks after joining Nimura, Kellen stood at the windows of his new office corner, with views of both the Chicago skyline and the river. The space was still minimalist, but now by choice rather than necessity. Every element served a purpose. Nothing was extraneous. The knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. "Got a minute?" Bryce asked, tablet in hand. "Of course. 2 things. First, the Thompson financial migration is complete. All data transferred, users trained, old system decommissioned. They've authorized the case study we wanted to publish." "Excellent. And the second?" Bryce grinned. Greeley just updated his LinkedIn. He's now strategic consultant at Tech Forward Solutions in Oklahoma City. Kellen permitted himself a small smile. Tech Forward. Weren't they ranked last in industry influence last quarter? Second to last. But who's counting? Bryce's expression grew more serious. "I saw the quarterly numbers. We've already captured 18% of Argonexus's market share. At this rate, we'll hit your 30% target months ahead of schedule." "Good. Keep the pressure on." Bryce nodded and turned to leave, then hesitated. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. Was it worth it? All of this, the planning, the risk, just to get back at them?" Kellen considered the question carefully. "It wasn't about getting back at them, Bryce. It was about correction. What's the difference? Revenge is emotional. Correction is strategic." Kellen turned back to the window, surveying the city that had become his battleground. Argonexus believed loyalty was disposable, that contributions could be discarded once they'd served their purpose. They needed to learn otherwise. And the money? The position? The power? Natural consequences of proper correction. After Bryce left, Kellen's phone vibrated with a text message from Zora. "Board meeting moved up. They want to discuss expanding your team. Apparently, success gets attention." He slipped the phone back into his pocket without replying. The pieces were falling into place exactly as he'd calculated. Within a year, he would likely be offered the chief competitive officer role they'd discussed. Within 2, a seat on the executive committee. Kellen poured himself a measure of rye whiskey, the same brand he'd drunk the night of his termination, and raised it slightly toward the skyline. "Loyalty is earned," he said quietly to the empty room. "Respect is earned. And revenge," he sipped the whiskey, savoring its burn, "is best funded with interest."